Welcome to TCG Presents Bourbon with O, episode 3. Everyone here needs no introduction apart from Mr. Grant Listener over here. So today we're going to be talking pretty much about Grant and his journey and what he's been through, what he's building, what he has built, and just get into some of the questions and some of the wisdom that he has doing what he's been doing. So before anything else, I'll just have Grant talk a little bit about himself.
Yeah, well, before we kind of get going, I will tell you, when you go to school for such a long period of time, you earn this title called doctor instead of mister that most people will call you by. When they hold you in a certain type of regard and status, when you're not too comfortable with them. And so we'll leave that there. But my name is Dr. Grant Listener. So just to set the record straight on that. But yeah, so I'm a neurologically based chiropractor. My wife and I have a practice down in South Charlotte here, and we opened our practice in 2015, and one thing we've really stuck our flag in the ground with is philanthropy. We've done a lot for our community since we started this thing, and actually a lot of guys in this room with me have taken part in this, where we do this big annual Thanksgiving drive where this last year we fed 300 families in need on Thanksgiving Day. We do an annual scooter and bike ride where we give scooters and bikes away to kids on the first day of summer break with the local police here. And we do a big back to school drive where we get school supplies to help kind of bridge the gap for people who are basically a mile away from the front door of our office, these kids that are in really rough and tough situations. So, but all of that has really been possible because of the success of our business that my wife and I envisioned several years ago. And I'm a father of 2, very, very, very blessed man, and have a wonderful wife. That's my partner in business as well.
Solid. So the thing about Grant, I didn't, he's also my chiropractor and gym buddy sometimes. But like the thing about meeting Grant, a lot of people ask me how we met, and it was unwillingly. My administrator at that time, kept asking me to go see this chiropractor across the street. And the reason she wanted me to go see him was I was having headaches every day. Migraines every single day. And I absolutely refused. And I got tricked into hanging out at the office after prelims. And I thought we were getting Chinese food. Yeah, we had ordered brown rice and bourbon chicken. So I'm sitting there waiting for my food. And the door opens up. I'm like, oh yeah, here's my Chinese. And I see Grant come in. He's holding all the, the spine or weird thing like that and all this. And I'm looking like, what? Why are you here? And long story short, he had this, his little presentation. And it was a lot of information that I'd never heard before. I didn't know. I'd been to chiropractors prior to that because of certain injuries, and they had just put me off. So I listened, and I was like, crap, man, I gotta go see this dude. So I think I came and saw you the next day, and we did a bunch of X-rays and stuff like that, and came back, got adjusted. Funny thing is, after my first adjustment, I didn't even realize, but I didn't have headaches anymore. And it was, after that, I was just like, all right, you know what? If nothing else happens, these headaches that have been, in my life for years are gone, So it's actually pretty cool what I went from with regards to, how I was feeling to, how I feel now. And I still go as much as I can, if the planning is right. But what I want to do today, though, is I want to get into Grant's story. Where you're from, how you got into the whole entrepreneurial field. Like, why did you do all this?
Yeah, there you go. Well, so I ended up becoming a chiropractor. I was injured wrestling, so I was a high school wrestler, my brothers and I, we all wrestled, and had an injury where I landed basically right here flat on the mat. and I was thrown very forcefully. No big deal, you bounce back, 17 years old, just go back at it. Flash forward a few weeks, I started to notice my right bicep is just seems to be getting weaker and smaller, and I ended up developing advanced atrophy in my right bicep. And so basically the muscle is just wasting, and went to several specialists, went to PT, that was really the ultimate answer for it, but had nerve conduction studies done where they shove needles in your nerves, test how fast the signals go between the nerve, there's no blockage, they can't really figure out what's happening. And and my answer was go to PT, which did absolutely nothing for me. And so I'm dealing with this on until I'm 18, so flash forward a year later, and a friend of mine works for a chiropractor, and she goes, I know you've been doing this for a long time, why don't you go check this out? They're doing this free dinner thing, just go get a free dinner, and at 18 years old, I'm like, I like free food, so let's do that. And heard about chiropractic in a very similar manner that I taught you about chiropractic, and I think several of you guys at this point have heard us speak about this, but, and so heard about chiropractic, and I was like, no, let's do it, 18 years old, jumped in, and took out a credit card just for chiropractic care, and paid for my care, moved forward, and I noticed after a few adjustments, so my strength seemed to come back a little bit, and just over 3 months, my bicep was back to normal after doing that for about a year, and the chiropractor kind of took a liking to me and pulled me under his arm a little bit and said, here's what we need to do, and gave me some guidance. I ended up applying for school and got accepted, and at that point I was working on my undergrad, so I finished up my undergraduate degree at Life University, which is in Atlanta, Georgia, so we moved from Florida to Atlanta, and I finished up my undergraduate degree in nutrition, then matriculated right to my doctorate in chiropractic, and I finished that out in June of 2014. And so in June of 2014, I also moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. It was 2 days after I graduated, I moved to Charlotte.
Why so fast? What made you move to Charlotte so fast in 2 days?
Man, I knew where I was going. I was ready to help people. It's like I've been going to school for, at that point, over 8 years. It was just like, let's do the thing. Let's get it going. And so I would say my wife and I, we sought out mentorship while I was in school. I'd been prepping for practice for that moment to walk across the stage. I've been prepping for that moment for 5 years. And I'll tell you, the real pain in the ass with preparation is it's work you don't get paid for the bulk of the time. That's what preparation really means. It's work you're not going to get paid for immediately. And so what this meant is I was going to work for my mentor for free. And I was basically his bitch. Go get the mail, go check the mail. I remember literally he would have me check his mail and cut insurance checks. And I asked him later, I was like, why did you make me do this? Because I wanted you to get paid from insurance. It's like, because I laughed at one point because he got a 2-cent check from insurance. I was like, this is silly. It's like it costs them more to send you the check than the check. And right. And then I have since beaten that by getting a 1-cent check from insurance. So so love health insurance. But I say all this. So we spent 5 years while I was in school prepping for that moment to walk across the stage. So we were chomping at the bit. Like I was buying used equipment ready to get this thing up and running as lean and mean as we possibly could. I had saved up money. I was doing everything I could to earn extra money while I was in school. And so we had saved up a little over $20,000, moved to Charlotte, and started the process of securing our location, trying to get our small business loan in place, a lot of other things. So, and the fun piece of this is we are working to get a small business loan. And in case you guys have not tried this at this point, when you have zero business experience, people really like to give you money. So I actually had one bank tell me I had the best business plan they had seen in their entire career. And it was the person I was dealing with, the branch manager said, this is going to be great. We have no problem. We're going to set up the underwriter. We expect to have your approval in the next 24 hours, 48 hours. Perfect. And hear back, and about a day later, and they turn us down. And had nothing to do with my business plan, my startup capital, everything was in place. It was just you don't have business experience. So I was rejected by 15 banks trying to secure our startup loan. Damn. And wow. And number 16 gave me my $50,000 to start my business. So I had, and in the process, please understand, we moved to Charlotte. We found out my wife is pregnant, 2 months pregnant, moved to Charlotte, trying to start a business, trying to get capital, trying to figure out how we're going to move, rent an apartment. We had to go to a special apartment. It was a really nice part of town. Now we know South Park, so we rented the South Park. but it was one of the only apartments that would allow us to rent without having a job. We didn't have a source of income. We were living off of savings. And so again, you know, other hoops we had to jump through. So we're starting this thing and trying to make sure we can just survive. So we've been here for 3 months. We finally secure our startup capital. In that process, we're negotiating leases for potential spaces, and we end up bluffing. We were negotiating the place that we currently have, and they asked us to sign a document where I ended up looking to our bank account and see how much we had, and flat out, I lied on that document. I said we had more money than we did. I said we'd already secured our loan in our negotiations, and that we had that money in the account, and we did not. And they looked, and we got approved for the loan, and it was like, there was like a 3-day gap between when they were supposed to look and when that money was actually in the, and I'm like, we don't have that money. Like, we don't. So, and it was just, you know, playing poker. Like, we bluffed, it worked. We got approved for the space, and so we go on to our, working with our contractor. We selected the contractor, we got our blueprints done, approved by the county, and our contractor tells us in January we secured it. So I graduated in June, so June to January we got our startup loan and we secured our location. January is when our build-out process formally starts, and so we start the build-out process, securing it, and the first dealing with the contractor, he tells me it's going to be a 6 to 8 week build-out. And like, you know, okay, we get that, we understand that. The 6 to 8 week build out. So first 3 weeks they've done nothing because they're still trying to get our blueprints approved through the county, even though they've already been approved. So there's this huge miscommunication. They end up taking over 6 months to get us our certificate of occupancy for our business.
Jeez. Wow.
So
6 weeks to 6 months.
So we went 1 year. We went 1 year without earning a penny, without making a penny. We at that point, because of that, the delays we had in our build out and everything else, we basically called every friend we possibly had, every favor in, asking to borrow money. And it was tough. And bear in mind, at that point we had a baby who was born in November, so we had a baby about 6-7 months old. A lot going on. It was a hell of a time to start a business.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, you talk about the grind and going through things that, and I'll tell you ultimately through that process too, stuff I prioritized. I was still always at the gym almost every single day. I went to 1 networking meeting per day, getting to, you know, shake hands, kiss babies, and I would set up my one-on-one coffee meetings at Panera Bread, and what I would do is buy a $2.11 medium cup of coffee, because I couldn't afford to eat out at this point. It was my $2.11 cup of coffee, and I would line up my one-to-one meetings networking, like basically just meeting these people on a one-on-one basis for about an hour, and I would line 5 or 6 of them up at a time when I didn't have meetings. So it was 5 or 6 hours at Panera Bread drinking the same cup of black coffee all day because I couldn't afford to do anything else at that point. And so that's kind of how we pushed and overcame hurdles, and we finally got our CO and got our tails open, and our ribbon cutting was something that I thought was kind of neat for our ribbon cutting for our office. Is we our very first act that we did as a business is we leveraged our ribbon cutting as a fundraiser for a local company to for a local nonprofit to help kids. And just from the first day our business opened, that's what we did. And our first week in practice, we had over 200 paid appointments on the books.
Wow.
Oh, shoot.
And we just launched from there. We renowned around within the profession as one of the fastest growing chiropractic offices. We were just overcome adversity to get where we're at, and now at this stage of my career, my wife and I actually, we're on phone calls on a monthly basis. We speak at these conferences in front of thousands of other chiropractors and team members and students, and we mentor other chiropractic students because we were able to put our heads down and get to where we're at and find success. And I mean, I think the main reason why we're here today having this conversation is because I refuse to accept failure where most would have.
Yeah.
Truthfully.
So I mean,
So, I mean, going through, you got turned down by 15 banks.
Yeah.
Right? So, you get turned down by 15 banks, and, getting turned down by one bank is disheartening, right? Like, by 15 banks, like, what was going through your head, like, during that time? Because a lot of people, we do sales, right? People get 6 no's in a day, and they're retired for the day. They might be retired for life. Sales is not for me. 6 no's, you broke my heart. Ugh, I'm dead, right? But like, you going through that, like, what's your thought process here, and why is that?
Yeah, I think kind of twofold. So if you guys are, I think it's a lot easier to face rejection if you're doing something that you're passionate about. No matter what though, if you're an entrepreneur, your goal is to own your own business, you're going to face rejection. It's going to happen. It's just, it's a lot easier to overcome those rejections if you're doing something that you actually care about. Truthfully, and it's just, and I think that can be multifocal. It's, I understand what you guys are doing. I got a chance to do it firsthand, and I think that the goal can be a little bit different. It's, your communication with the person that you're trying to serve and take care of, and I appreciate all the training with the Jones effect and that stuff, but ultimately your grind and your why for doing this is so you're doing things right now that most people aren't willing to do, so you can do things that most people can't ever do in their future. And so the rejection of the banks, to come full circle back to your question, failure was not an option. I'd move my pregnant wife to a different state, away from everybody she'd ever known, away from everybody I've ever known. We're starting this brand new business. Failure is not an option. One bank said no, there's going to be a bank who says yes, who sees the value and is holding accounts with them permanently. You say yes to my loan, me having $150,000 in your accounts is kind of nice for you guys, because you can use my money to make more money off of it if you'd like. Yeah. They like that. So, and there's a bank who saw value in us, and truthfully, we got in front of the right person, and we had a conversation with the guy, and somebody, he told me, he goes, truthfully, the reason I'm going to give you this loan, I'm going to take this risk on you, is because you told me openly that you were a Christian. And he goes, and that means something. That's what he told me.
That's what's up.
Wow.
I love that.
That's really cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. And I think this would be really good for a lot of people. I think jumping back to kind of like the very, very start of the process. Can you talk a little bit about, you said before moving you saved $20,000, right? I think very many people struggle to save anything.
Yeah.
Right? Let alone saving $20,000. So I mean, I want to kind of hear about maybe even the system you put in place to be able to start saving money, and you know what I mean? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about saving, and they talk about even if you start small, eventually you'll gain the discipline and save big. But I want you to just briefly touch on what just your mindset and your process and your system to saving $20,000. You know what I mean? And to someone who's not a business owner, that can sound like borderline impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I think saving is something that everybody should do regardless if you're a business owner or not. If you're not saving, you're putting yourself in a precarious situation. But having a true budget, sticking to that budget, household budget, business budget, both are necessary. So I think everybody as well is in a unique situation to make money that they may not realize, and they probably don't leverage it well. The unique situation I was in school to make money was I was around the largest chiropractic school in the world. And so what I did was I bought chiropractic equipment, but I would be willing to travel to Florida and to North Carolina and Virginia and Tennessee to buy this equipment, bring it back with me and sell it to students, to sell it to other doctors. And so I buy this stuff, I'd play the student card because I'm a poor student and I'm using this for practice. What I would do is play around with stuff, get used to it, and resell it. And I got so familiar with a certain piece of equipment, advanced thermography, static myography, I became like the go-to for this, even for other chiropractors who are looking to buy these units. I would buy and sell these things, just make bank, and it was like that was my separate account. I was making money, and this money was not a part of my household budget. This money was chiropractic. That's what this was for.
I want to ask you, do you feel like the heart of an entrepreneur or the mind of an entrepreneur is something that you're born with? Because like even something like that, you're in school, everybody else is in school, they're thinking about parties or whatever is going on at that time. But you here, you're catching flights, you're going to Florida, you're going to North Carolina, and you're coming back and saying, this is what I'm going to do.
Catching
Like
flights?
that.
No, man.
However you do that. I just feel like even that in itself is something that an entrepreneur, you're thinking like an entrepreneur already, even before opening your chiropractic business. So is that something that you feel is taught or what?
No, I think it's the level of maturity and awareness. It's there's no like special sauce. You go back to Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, all these amazing athletes too. It's there are pieces of it you can argue. Okay, genetics X, Y, and Z, but it's like these guys work their asses off, and to diminish any of their hard work from genetics is disrespectful.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like they work day in and day out, and that's just a part of it. If you're an entrepreneur, you got to be able to put in the work, get used to rejection, and there's so much to this, truthfully, and I think a lot of it goes back to headspace. There's this old saying, I apologize, I'm going to paraphrase and probably butcher this part of it, but it's this old story about a guy talking about, it's a Native American talking about the two bears, and it was, they're always fighting, and there's one that is full of the negative stuff of his entire life, and it's like, here's all of it, and there's one that's all the positive experiences this guy's ever had and all the positive thoughts he can manifest. And so you have these two bears, and the Native American son, his dad asks him, he goes, which bear wins? And he goes, the one I feed the most. And that's it. It's just, where are you going to focus your mind? And people say these things like, if every one negative thought takes so many positive thoughts. I don't know about that. What I do know is negative thinking and speaking negatively to yourself is going to impact every single aspect of your life.
Yep.
And so if you're inside of your head saying like, man, I suck so bad today because of this and this, I'm making excuses, I ran late, I slept in, I drank too much last night, I did this over the weekend, this is my excuse for why my life is not the way I want it to be, and you're focusing on the excuses versus where you want to be, it's going to impact the way your life looks like, no matter what.
Right.
So like, I think being an entrepreneur means you're getting control of your headspace, your thoughts, and you're making sacrifices and taking risks that most people don't want to take.
I want to ask you a separate question, shift gears a little bit personally. I think along the journey, obviously your wife is a huge part of your success. She's there every year. She kind of does a lot of the putting together the turkey drive that we do every year. She's been with you, setting everything up, and she's just kind of always been your rock there. How important would you say it is as far as having someone who buys into the vision early? Because for me, or just people I talk to, they're like, oh, my girl doesn't get it, or someone doesn't get it. And I kind of want to tell them, well, you have to give them something to get. You got to give them something to buy in. But do you think it's fair to ask your significant other to, I guess, buy into your dream and your vision before you've had any traction with it?
Man, that's a great question. I think I've seen. I'll tell you firsthand. I'm very blessed that my wife was like, I'm all in, and if you're doing this, I'm going to do this. I'll be a part of this. I've seen other situations where it works, where it's just like, husband and wife, guy's a chiropractor, wife does her own gig, she's a real estate agent, they're both very, very happy, have a healthy family life, she still gets adjusted, loves chiropractic, she just doesn't want to be part of the business, completely fine. It's not that she's against chiropractic or has anything negative to say about it, it's just she doesn't want to be in part of the business.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely that aspect of it. But I will tell you, talking about a relationship level, I have seen these ebbs and flows in my life personally, where if I am not, and a lot of it boils down to me, if I'm not investing the proper amount of time into my marriage and into my relational life, my kids, if there is tension or stress at home, it will feed into every aspect of your life, especially business.
Right.
And I can't explain this directly. Truthfully, some of my headspaces, I think there's a little bit of a spiritual level to this, but it's just, if you go back to that negative aspect and you're carrying it with you, and it's like the person you are supposed to be the closest with and most vulnerable with, and you are at highest tensions with, it's going to affect everything else you do. So
and to add to that, I think it depends, right? It depends on what you're doing, right? If you're, if your vision is not clear, you don't really know what you want, and you're not going after it like a crazy person, I don't think it's fair to ask them to support that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's bullshit, and this is why I think that, because you're asking them to wait until you decide to be mature enough to do stuff, but you're not in their life for that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're in their life to make their life better. So if you're not going at it like a madman, like a crazy person, like, I need to make her life better or his life better based on, whatever it is, right? But if you're not going at it like that, then it's not fair to support, right? Or to ask them for support. The way I see it is, if you want support, you got to do something worth supporting.
So I mean, from the standpoint of, I'll hire someone, right? I hired this guy in my office, and he's in a week in the business. He's like, I think I like this. This first week was fun. I want to do this. I think I could be good. And I'm talking to this kid. I'm like, damn, I think this guy could be good.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes into the office and he's like, hey man, I don't want to do this. It's just my girl doesn't like this, and this. She doesn't think I should be doing this. And he actually listened to her and he quit. So in my mind, I'm like, damn, I wish she gave you a window to try to find your greatness at least. So he didn't have a chance to get good. It's not that he wasn't trying to create the vision, it's that she just didn't believe in it early enough.
Well, here's the thing, like I see, right? She knows nothing about our business apart from what he told her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So what did he tell her that makes her feel like this is not okay?
It's not just her. I think I asked Grant because of just how his wife supported him, but I think it's loved ones in general, parents. We hire people who may still live at home, or people whose parents have a heavy influence on them. They say, I'm in sales. And their parents are coming from more of a traditional background. We're all entrepreneurs in here, so we're speaking the same language. But, there's people who just, what is it? Sales? What is it? You make commission?
Right.
And then they have their predispositions about it. So I just mean getting someone to buy into things. Is that entrepreneurs speak the same? I think you told me one time, if I'm speaking this language and you're speaking here, you may make sense and I make sense, but we're just not.
Yeah.
We're not connecting.
We're speaking two different languages.
You see the irony of that? We're in sales, but we can't get our family members to buy in.
That's so
Just
funny.
throwing it out there.
The irony.
Yeah.
Alright, I got a
That's
question.
hilarious.
That's funny.
So you talked a lot about your why, in the sense of like, when you're getting a lot of no's, like your why has to be strong enough. And then also you talked about giving back, to charities and like to the locals around here. So you don't have to get super deep into your why, but what is one thing or a couple things that really made you fight so hard to be able to do what you're able to do?
I love it, man. That's an awesome question. That's something I'm super passionate about. I mean, I think if understanding the big idea of what chiropractic is, it's amazing. If I actually may pull something up on my phone here before we leave this interview to kind of read this to you guys. It's truthfully a piece of it, this philosophy of chiropractic, the fact that the vast majority of people have no idea about the healing power inside of their body, and everybody turns to a drug and a medication or some pill. Most people think you need a drug. You go to a doctor. People go to doctors because they're the gurus, and truthfully, the reason why people go to doctors is because they don't want responsibility for their health. That's why they go to doctors. They don't want to do something about it. They want to walk around in ignorance.
That's a fact.
That's what they want.
Yep, 100%.
So you have, and I think the other piece of it too is ultimately chiropractic has failed. We have failed to communicate the message to the masses about how the human body can heal itself, how the nervous system controls every aspect of it, and when the spinal bones misalign, it's usually painless because most people determine how they feel based on, or how healthy they are based upon their pain or lack thereof. Usually painless, left uncorrected long-term impacts the function of the human body. And here's my passion behind this is most people don't know that. One of my biggest pet peeves of I'm in my office adjusting mom and dad and their kids are there. I'm like, when are we gonna get your kids checked out? Your kids are sitting right here. We could do this right here, right now. Why don't we do this to make sure your kids don't grow up with the same crap you are right here trying to get corrected? That you wait till it was at this point and your kid's 5 and we could completely stop this before it starts. And so yeah, that's I know that if everybody were under chiropractic care on a regular basis, under maintenance chiropractic care, it would transform the way our healthcare system looks in this country and in the world. Truthfully, 100%. We would focus on correcting causes instead of finding cures.
Mm-hmm.
So this might be an interesting question.
Thank you.
I think like I want your opinion on this, but I feel like caring for people is a big part of successful entrepreneurship. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a big part of what I heard in your why. Do you know what I mean? That's a caring for people thing, and I don't know if in every individual, do you know what I mean? Like long term, I don't think it matters what type of business you're running. I don't think a great business is comprised of great people. So if you don't have great people, you don't have a great business. Do you know what I mean? So like, you know what I mean? I think like, what is it? Do you feel as if the caring for people is something that people can develop, or do you think that's something that maybe some people just have or other people don't have? You know what I mean? Because I do feel like that's a big part of why you do so well with what you do. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like if you only cared about how successful chiropractic work could be, then you would do as great as you know what I mean. So it's just a little how you feel about that. You know?
I mean, that's an awesome question and perspective and a huge compliment, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think you gotta love people, and truthfully, I go back to, you know, my faith as a Christian. To simplify what it means to be a Christian is love God, love people.
Yeah.
That's really it, and some people are very tough to love. You know, we're in a just shooting all straight.
Yeah,
sure.
It's true.
That's a fact.
Yeah. And where my headspace goes is, you know, we have a large homeless community around our practice. I've had to wake people up sleeping behind my practice, and as I'm telling them to get up, I see used heroin needles falling to the ground, and I see these same people asking me for money, and I know exactly what they're going to do with that money. And so it's like, you know, those are the ones that are. But in the same regard, there's this husband and wife that they are homeless, and they're actively trying to get off the street. And the guy came to me one day and he goes, "Hey, I just want to tell you, my wife and I are sleeping behind your building, and we will be up and clean up any piece of trash that's on your property before we leave. I just want to make you aware, but I don't want to be disrespectful at all." And he goes, "You know, I'm a contractor, fell into a hard spot, and we're doing our best." And so I hired the guy to do some work, and he's ended up buying a truck, and I haven't seen him and his wife in a while now. And my hope is that they got a place to stay.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's certain circumstances where it's
Awesome.
like, you know, loving people is a very broad spectrum to it. It really is. And I think I kind of took it to the absolute extreme there, talking about that situation, or you could talk about somebody that's, you know, being violent against you, you know, trying to love that person. But it's just trying to treat people like family, you know, that's really it.
Yeah. I mean, another question for me, and I think this could be helpful for me, right, in business and in life, right? So I feel like, and I think any person with a big heart probably could, you know, say the same thing, but I feel like, what's a good way for you to create, you know, that line between, you know, caring too much for the right or the wrong person? Do you know what I mean? Because I think you know what I mean? Yeah, because I feel like it's easy for me, even over time in, you know, business, to put my eggs in a basket where it may not long term have been the most effective basket. And I don't know if it's more a concept of not wanting to make the decision to care about someone too early, or understanding when to get out of the situation.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about your dating life too much.
No. My relationship is phenomenal.
Stephanie,
Let me just clarify.
I love you, Stephanie.
He loves you, Stephanie. Covering our bases.
All bases.
So I was recently asked a question by a student, and they told me, they asked me what one of my biggest regrets as a student was, and if I could go back and do something different. And just completely off the cuff, the first thing that came to my mind was investing time into relationships that, in hindsight, were not fruitful or beneficial. And truthfully, that's kind of the issue with investing to a relationship is you are investing ultimately your one of your most valuable assets is your time, and you can't ever get the time back. And so just being very intentional in how you utilize and invest, because that is an investment, how you utilize and invest your time.
Is it time wasted though if you took something, like, even though it wasn't fruitful or whatever, but do you think those relationships made you value the one that you're in now more?
Yeah, so
treat it differently?
I appreciate that perspective. I think if you were to ask somebody in 2007 if getting into the real estate investment market was a very good idea right now, or if there would have been smarter ways for them to invest their money at that time, they would probably say we would have done something else.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, did they learn a lesson? I guarantee you they learned a lesson. They learned a lesson, but they probably would have done something differently.
Right.
Money, yeah, absolutely.
So time and money, same thing, man. How are you going to invest your money?
For sure.
Because your time is more valuable than your money.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
Do you think that's something more gained over time with experience and understanding certain situations, or do you think you just have that ability to gauge it all the time?
I think there's just a certain amount of discernment and decisiveness that can be developed, and just being aware. And it's just, for me, it's, so right now, I chose to be here tonight with you guys instead of tucking my boys into bed. Right? So no matter what, anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else.
Yeah.
100%. That's the way it goes, man.
That's knowledge.
I like what O told
I
me.
like that.
I want to share with them, like, I was just saying, man, like, into the question that you were talking about is just like deciding when to pull back or not. I don't think there's a deciding thing when you just make your rules, right? Like, this is what I accept. These are my terms and conditions for how I operate. And then if you want to operate within my space, like, these are my rules. And if somebody breaks it, it's kind of like, it's not a love you or hate you thing, but it's I love myself enough to not put up with someone who's willingly going to break the rules that I have set for my life, whether that be, the way they treat you, the way they talk to you, certain things that go on. It's like, this is part of my rules, you're outside of that. And instead of being the person who's chasing people down and causing arguments, you're more or less just the referee. No one gets mad at the referee, right? Like, if you step out of bounds and the ref blows a whistle, they're not like, I'm not out of bounds. They're kind of like, I guess you are. You know what I'm saying? So, like, no one's mad at the ref when
people hit the ref.
I don't mean to put it in
I get the analogy.
Controversial.
I get what you're saying.
Not a controversial
But in the
call.
situation, I'm not the ref. I'm in the game.
You're in the game, right? But when you sit down with someone and say, hey, this is this, and this, and this, I think that's the problem, right? People get into arguments because we don't say it initially, like, this is what I'm okay with, this is what I'm not okay with. I don't think people mind. No one argues with someone when they go, hey, listen, I'm not cool if this ever happens. And then it happens and you go, hey, I'm not cool with it. I don't think anyone's going to be mad at that because you set the precedent. Listen, I'm not okay with these things. I think people get into arguments because they don't set the right expectations, and then you try to learn about each other as you go along, which you have to. But I think the biggest things that are going to be deal breakers, I think that if you lay them out on the table, it's not a me versus you thing. It's just I love my, and I see Okletey do it a lot. I see him go like, nope, simple shit. Like, after we call, everybody heads out the office and he's leaving the office as well. Like, I already know, like, I gotta eat at this time. It's part of my shit. Like, at this time, yep, everybody's going, cool, it's time to eat. And you just live your life by a certain code of conduct, and it just keeps everything in line, I think.
Because here's the thing, right? I think it's a matter of clarity, right? And whatever people value is what they value. Like, after college, I started realizing that I can't tell people what to value. It's not okay. You know what I mean? It's like, it's me assuming I know what's best for them. I don't know what's best for anybody. I know what's best for me. So it's like, it's a matter of clarity when it comes to, hey, listen, I know exactly what my vision is. 2020 vision, right? I know exactly what that is. And I have certain rules to execute that. And those rules I abide by. Now, crazy circumstances, yeah, I might step here and there with those rules, but I just live based on, like a code of conduct.
Yeah.
There's certain things like, nope, not handling it. Well, Okletey, you might, hey, whatever, it's cool. It is what it is, but I have to be okay here. You know what I'm saying?